I had a pretty terrible night. I was up from, well, I took a nap at around 4 to 5 of yesterday afternoon and then just stayed up until about maybe 8 or 9 this morning. So all last night I was up and I had my eyes closed, tried to go to sleep. Uh, didn't work. And it's, it's, let's just say undesirable to have not be able to sleep when you need to or want to. But it's always darkest before the dawn, and I'm very happy to announce today that Amazon, and people probably already know about this, earlier today announced that it is increasing its hourly minimum wage to $15 per hour for all full time, part time, temporary, and seasonal employees across the United States. We listened to our critics, thought hard about what we wanted to do, and decided we want to lead, Jeff Bezos, Amazon's founder and CEO, said in a statement. We're excited about this change and encourage our competitors and other large employers to join us. The new hourly minimum wage is scheduled to take effect on November 1st and will benefit more than 250,000 employees working at the retail giant. We will be working to gain congressional support for an increase in the federal minimum wage. The current rate of $7.25 was set nearly a decade ago, Jay Carney, Amazon's Senior Vice President of Global Corporate Affairs, said in a statement. We intend to advocate for a minimum wage increase that will have a profound impact on the lives of tens of millions of people and families across the country, he continued. The move comes on the heels of repeated attacks from Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, an outspoken critic of large corporations. The Vermont Independent has specifically called out Amazon and Bezos following reports that some workers claim they receive wages they could not live on. In a letter to the Amazon CEOs in June, Sanders shared stories his staff had heard from Amazon employees who said they were struggling. My staff has spoken with Amazon workers who are homeless, who are hungry, who are suffering and in pain, Sanders wrote. The people you employ who spend 10 or more hours a night running, bending, lifting, and packing up our new electronic gadgets, baby clothes, dog treats, and kitchen appliances, many of these workers struggle to pay their rent and food on the table, send their kids to college, or afford their medical bills. Earlier this month, Sanders escalated his feud with Bezos by introducing legislation that would charge big companies like Amazon for the federal welfare program that supports their low wage workers. So, this is definitely an accomplishment of Sanders. And, I truly believe he's one of the most influential senators of the last 20 or 30 years. But continuing on from this, I want this to serve because I'm not here to go and give him, some praise for 10 minutes. I want it to be a reminder of why high profile people need to call things out, and where there is power in numbers, you have to have a platform of an individual of significance to be able to render change in a lot of cases. If Sanders had put up that legislation 5, 6 years ago, nobody would have cared. And I had to explain a while ago that last year actually that his presidential campaign was successful and very consequential in raising his name recognition, where he could go out and say, "This company is doing whatever," and get people to tune into his message or try to hear him more. And I find it so disgusting when we have these individuals in contemporary society that try to encourage lying down and succumbing to the systems that are corrupt and that are in place. So, for example, you have people who will say, "Don't call out the oligarchy. Oh, it's pointless. The politicians are always going to be able to beat us because they have the money." It's like, yeah, but they have to. If you inform enough people of it, it could change overnight. Enough people who are of sound mind and actually want to see their representatives not be corrupt. So it's a numbers game, but it's very dependent on having at least one person that a lot of people know of jump on board with it. Um, and I find it so sad that we had to have this kind of pressure put on this company, where the owner has billions of dollars to give people the bare minimum, literally. Um, as far as what the new standard that a lot of liberals are pushing for. And you'll still have the people who will say, "Oh, we can't afford minimum wage," and then I'll say, "Well, we have price controls. They can't increase things if it's illegal to do so." But they don't want to they want to pretend it doesn't exist because it fits their narrative. And I find it so sad that when I kept having to mention the 76% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, the 63% that can't afford $1,000 emergency, people always thought that was some kind of direct blaming of Trump if they're a fan of his. And I kept explaining, no, this is a problem that exists within these corporations and these companies that hire loads and loads of people and give them crappy wages for their hard work. And it's not, I've had some who denounce this as looking for a handout when I would think going to work every day for hours on end would be the exact opposite of that. So it's just a really sad cycle of people lacking empathy, and it's even more disturbing when you have to have the company's CEO get all this pressure put on him to do the simplest of things. So this should serve as a reminder of what good can come from resisting the status quo, and also what needs to be recognized about these billionaires and these companies. Companies by themselves are not evil. The people at the top are just not sympathetic to the plight of those below them. You think Bezos has ever had to worry about whether he was going to be able to have to wager paying for mortgage on his house that month, or a medical bill, or putting his children through school? None of it's ever come up in his mind. And it doesn't make him some evil, hideous villain by virtue of not experiencing the plight that many people in the contemporary era of companies, paying their workers crumbs, have had to deal with. But it's the fact that when you have the ability to change and you don't do it, that really should be called into question here. Um, and in the future, I'd like for more companies to have similar pressure put on them, because if you can get enough of these places to start paying that higher minimum wage, you can make the case for increasing it further, or at least testing it out in as many places as possible to see if it's stable or not. Because the current model isn't, and a lot of people like to talk about this pull yourself up by your bootstraps nonsense, but these are the same people who, in a lot of cases, are supporting men who are not self-made, and actually, when they get to where they are, they go out of their way to make it to where people can't repeat the same status that they have, or the same story, by paying them less than what they're worth, and less than is tolerable for many of the costs that we're currently seeing. So it's really a conundrum of just you having to wake someone up from it. And in a lot of cases, you can't do that. If I had just gone up to Bezos yesterday and said, "Hey, you better put this price up," he wouldn't listen to me. But because you have a group of people expressing their backlash for the practices of his company, it's being thought of and talked about in a way that's different from one person speaking about something. When I've become most cynical with these stories, it's due to the fact that in a lot of cases it's felt like it's just me or a handful of other people discussing or talking about some issue of high importance, or at least what we consider to be high importance. So when you have people come out and actually say something about the recurring issues that all these workers are facing, you can get that change. And that's why it's so saddening to see people write off all things political as just being boring and bills and nonsense, when this affects people's daily lives. So just a little pet peeve of mine, but it's a good day for this alone. If I have my own problems, but when I can see a majority of people benefiting from something, it's truly touching. Thank you.